G'day Darkrealmers, it's horror author and illustrator Michael J. Elliott here with you again. If you've ever wondered what scares the crap out of a horror writer, stay tuned because I'm going to give you my top 10 all-time favourite horror movies that scare me to death. And if this is your first time to the Diaries, welcome and thanks for joining us. If you want to keep up with the best in the world of horror, including movie reviews, trivia and creepypasta, make sure to hit that subscribe button and bell notification, okay? All right, Darkrealmers, here we go with my top 10 best scary films, okay? Okay, Darkrealmers, this was a tag that was started by my mate JB Taylor, and it's a really interesting one because as a horror writer, it takes a lot to get me scared or at least chill me out. And some of the movies on this list you'll no doubt be aware of, and some of them may be new for you. So if there's something there that picks up your interest, make sure to check it out. So let's get started with number 10. Okay, Darkrealmers, now I have mentioned the other in another video I did, which was about lesser known horror movies that you may not have seen that are really worth looking out. So you can check out that video up there, or up, yeah, wherever. Okay, but it is one of the creepiest films you will ever see. Well, for me anyway. And it involves twin boys, Niles and Holland, and they live on a farm in Midwest America during the Depression era. And Holland is really creepy, and you know, he's the one who doesn't care about anyone or anything. He's capable of, you know, some nasty things, but the twist in this is just shocking, absolutely shocking. When we find out the truth about these twins and some of the things that they've gotten up to, it's just terrifying. And the thing is, why it's terrifying is because you don't actually see anything. You don't see anything being committed. And you're wondering the whole time throughout the movie, you know, what's going on? Which twin is doing this? You know, it's one of the best creep fest movies you'll see. Okay, so that's my pick for number 10. Okay, here we go with number 9. Pan's Labyrinth would have to be one of the scariest movies ever. And, you know, like even the faun, who's benevolent, is really creepy. And the best creep monster stroke slash character has got to be the Pale Man, okay, with those hands and eyes, and yeah. But what I also found really horrifying about this movie is the human monsters, okay? The captain in this movie, who is, you know, in the Spanish Civil War, and how he can torture people and just command people to be executed at the drop of a hat. And this is a background to the actual fantasy and the dark horror of the fantasy. So it's not like that we get any light moments, you know, like we get the background of the Spanish Civil War and, you know, the insurgents being captured and tortured and so forth. Just an absolute brilliant, brilliant movie. Yep, Darkrealmers, still one of the best The Devil Has a Child type movies that was ever made. Not only was it creepy for the things that Damien did, but also what his followers did. And also those scenes where the people trying to stop him were being killed in yucky ways, awesome. But for me, the most terrifying scene or shot was the end, where at the funeral of his father, Damien just turns up and looks at the camera and smiles. That just says it all. But Michael, I hear you scream, Darkrealmers. Day of the Triffids is a science fiction movie. Well, I challenge your sort of, like cut and dried assumption there, because like any plants that can walk around, blind humans, and then eat their decomposing corpses, that's got to be horror. That has definitely got to be horrifying. And for me, there were lots of great scenes in that movie, but the most terrifying was at the beginning, where the security guard at the Botanical Gardens is eating his supper and listening to about the meteor storm happening outside. And we cut and we see these roots being lifted up, and we hear that Triffid sound, which goes something like, yes, don't applaud. And then it slowly starts moving, okay? And this guy, and you're going, oh! And then when he turns around and gets whipped in the face by this Triffid with its stinger and is blind, and the Triffid is just pulling him towards it to be consumed. Oh! Look, I'm a huge fan of John Wyndham's books, and the 1963 Day of the Triffids is just brilliant. Now, the BBC did make a series of it, which was really good, but for me, it'll always be the movie. Yeah. Midnight Meat Train is not for the faint of heart, and by that I'm referring to Amber and others, okay? But that's what you expect from a Clive Barker film based on his book. Now, it's gruesome, it's bloody, but it is a very, very clever concept, and it's all about a man who sees a passenger actually murder people. Not just murder them, just disembowel them and cut them to pieces, then clean up the whole scene. And he goes on a quest to find who this man is and why nobody's seen him, and what's happening, and the secrets that are revealed that the whole city is in on. Not the populace, but the city officials, is just frightening. It's a very, very well-made adaptation of one of his books with a very, very clever premise. Okay, there's a lot of blood and gore, okay, but you're dealing with a man who's been given the task of killing these people for a specific purpose. Now, they're all strangers and things like that. So if you can get over the copious amounts of corn syrup, Darkrealmers, check it out for yourself. Well, Hellraiser did something. It made Pinhead one of the icons of modern horror, up there with Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees. But apart from that, what I found totally fascinating about the movie was that these Cenobites came from another dimension. They weren't exactly demons. They were something different. And what was creepy about the very first movie was that a drop of blood reanimated this corpse that needed more and more flesh to become more and more human. And when you think back in the 80s, the special effects were just absolutely wonderful. The scene of Uncle Frank, and all he is muscle and bone, and he's kissing his lover. It's just gross, but it's so frightening. Now, of course, the series had its ups and downs, and Clive Barker is actually reimagining or rebooting Hellraiser, and it's being written by him. So everyone is hoping for a return to the greatness of the Hellraiser series, and it's definitely one of my favourite in the franchise of the horror. Well, Darkrealmers, it's really unusual for me not to be able to watch a movie repeatedly, but with Hard Candy, I've seen it twice and that's enough. that is really enough. It is so psychologically terrifying that it leaves you just emotionally drained. Now, the story's about a young girl, and she's chatting to a guy on social website, and she meets him, and she's only 14, 15, and he's like in his 20s. Well, she's been tracking him down because she believes he's a pedophile, and he's involved with disappearances or murders involving other young girls. And she drugs his drink, and the most terrifying scene is when he wakes up and she's actually, anaesthetised him or given him some sort of local anaesthetic, and she's castrating him. And you're there going, oh my God. And she's chatting away saying, hey, I learned to do this in books, and I watched shoots and things like that. Now, hold still, because if I cut a major artery and everything, and you're going, oh my God, and you hate this girl, you hate this girl. And the reason you do is because we've got no proof whether this guy is a pedophile or not. She may have gotten the wrong guy. She may have been totally misguided in her assumptions. And this poor guy screaming, and it's just utterly, utterly frightening. But that's not the end of the story. And I'm not going to give you spoilers, but there's a psychological twist, and it's a cat and mouse game. And the ending is just absolutely shocking. And the young girl, the actress who plays this part, is so brilliant, so utterly convincing. And you feel sorry for this guy, and because we're there going, what if he's innocent? What are you doing? What are you do? Oh, it's just brilliant. But like I said, it is so emotionally wrecking on you as a viewer that I've watched it twice and I can't anymore. I just can't, because what it takes out of you, it gives you brilliant, absolutely brilliant viewing experience. But what it takes out of you, what this movie sucks out of you, in terms of emotions and raw energy, it's just, it just sort of devastates you. It just leaves you going, oh. And if you haven't seen it, do pick it up, because it's one of the most superb psychological thrillers you're likely to see, Darkrealmers. Yet another Clive Barker addition to my top 10. So you may have gathered, Darkrealmers, I'm a bit of a Clive Barker fan. Now, this movie is based on his book called The Books of Blood, and this is just brilliant. It's one of the creepiest films with a brilliant concept that you're likely to see. Now, it starts off with a disfigured man, and he's in a diner, and he gets asked by this truck driver if he'd like to go into his truck, and he gets drugged, and the truck driver says to him, tell me about the Books of Blood and I'll make a choice. You either tell me and I'll kill you quickly, or you can, refuse and I'll kill you slowly. So he begins telling the story of the Book of Blood, and it's frightening. Now, the first part is about a young girl who's being attacked by a ghost, and she has her face ripped off. Okay, nice. But then we cut forward to a psychic investigator who's at the house with this young man who we've previously met. And as they investigate, the ghosts of this house come out, and they begin writing their stories on his flesh. That's creepy, but they're demanding that these stories be told. And it's just absolutely brilliant. Clive Barker has one of the most incredible imaginations. He really does, for taking standard situations like haunted houses and giving them such an amazing twist. Now, check this one out, Darkrealmers, because it's one of the best horror films that you'll see, and one of the best adaptation of a Clive Barker book. Okay, Darkrealmers, I've mentioned this movie before, and that was in a tag from Joe Compton over at Go Indie Now, where he asked, one of the questions in the tag game was, name a movie that creeps you out and really scares you. And for me, it's got to be Seconds Apart. This is one of the best creepy films I've seen, and you've heard me say that with this top 10, but hey, it's a top 10. So yeah, this is a film about two twin boys, and they have the power to influence people with their minds, and they love filming the consequences of their actions. So, for example, you'll see scenes where they convince a group of students playing cards to start playing Russian roulette with a loaded gun. They convince someone in a car to cause an accident, and all these sort of really creepy, horrible things. And they're sociopaths, or psychopaths. They have no qualms, no remorse. For them, it's all an experiment. It's all a game. And into the mix comes a detective who is convinced these twins have something to do with these cases, but has no solid evidence. And what starts happening is one of the twins starts forming an attachment to a girl at school, and the other one becomes jealous. Now, from there, the creep factor just increases 100%, okay? And when you finally see how much power these boys have, especially in the scene where they're at home and the detective's there and he visits the parents, and he definitely wants, to charge these boys with something. It's just horrifying. It's really, really scary. A great little movie. And I saw this on Netflix, and it's available on DVD, okay? So check that one out for yourselves, Darkrealmers. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. Okay, Darkrealmers. Now, before you go, oh, another vampire film, I just have 3 words for you. Guillermo del Toro. Yep, you've got to understand that when he does something, he shakes the genre up really, really well. And this is his first feature movie, okay? And I caught this on one of our local channels here in Australia called SBS, which stands for Special Broadcasting Service, which specialises in all international movies. And you get to see some great movies you would never see on commercial channels. And it's a very, very clever story. And it basically involves an alchemist who escapes Mexico, escapes Spain to get away from the Spanish Inquisition. And he's creating or looking for a way to create what he calls the Kronos device, which will be a method to live forever. And he gets employed in in Mexico as the king's watchmaker. Now, we get an introduction in this movie about the alchemist, and in 1936 or 7, a building collapses and they find a man, a very strange pale man, that's been impaled by a piece of wood or shard of stone or whatever, and it's the alchemist. He did find it. Okay, well, the story progresses, and a antiques dealer buys a statue of an angel that came from the ruined building, and inside the base he finds what's we now know as the Kronos device. And when he winds it up, it sprouts 8 legs like a spider, and it bites him. Well, that's it. He begins transforming into a vampire, Darkrealmers. It's utterly terrifying because he suddenly doesn't sprout fangs and, I want to suck your blood. Nothing like that. It's very, very slow. It's very, very atmospheric, the way he slowly changes, like he finds he's sleeping better and he's got improved figure and his skin's improving and all that sort of thing. And then when we start seeing him, you know, start lusting for blood, it's a brilliant movie. It is one of the best examples of, you know, taking the classic vampire and turning it on his head. And Guillermo del Toro is just a brilliant, absolutely brilliant filmmaker. And I've loved everything he's made. But the fact that this is such a good movie for a first-time feature is just unbelievable. Check that out. It's available on DVD and Blu-ray, and it's a magnificent movie. Okay, Dark Realmers? Well, there you go. They're my top 10 choices. I'd like to say a big thanks to JB Taylor for tagging me in this to take part, because it's a nice way for me to share with you things that freak me out as a horror writer. Okay, Dark Realmers. So thanks, JB. Now, if you want to get some great content, you know, and movie reviews and book reviews and game reviews and just, you know, everything, you know, that you could think of to you know, be reviewed and chatted about and discussed, JB Taylor's your man to go to, because he just does it so well. Okay, he gets straight to the point, he doesn't muck around, and he'll let you know if he doesn't enjoy something. Okay, so that's it for me, Dark Realmers. Thank you so much for joining me on this tag. I've had a ball doing this. Okay, now after that, you really do need to stay in the light, Dark Realmers. Okay, and I'll be back with you again very, very soon. Okay, now bye for now.